Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends. These are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. So here we are again, another fun episode of Behind the Dreamers. And I wanted to start off today with some fun stats. And so I was reading a little bit up on back pain because it's like one of the most common reasons why people have absenteeism from work. And so this stat was kind of interesting. It said 540 million people worldwide are affected by back pain at any one time. Isn't that crazy? And 8 in 10 of those people will experience back pain, or 8 in 10 Americans will experience back pain in their lifetime. 5% of those go on to have chronic pain. And for anybody, I myself has suffered from chronic pain. For any of you out there that have suffered from that, that just sucks. It just sucks. There's no other way to put it. So my guest today says her company is dedicated to creating healthy workspaces that reduce stress, increase productivity, and reduce absenteeism. So I'm excited to chat with her today and let her share some of her wisdom and knowledge nuggets with our audience. But first, we have to do a shout out for our sponsors. So today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Photography. If you are a creator needing post-production, consultation, or promotion, Walt Mills is your guy. Whether short films, YouTube films, photography work, or a new headshot, he can help you find a solution to match your needs. To learn more about Walt and his work, you're going to want to go to photosbywalt.com. We also want to give it a shout out to our friend Chris Clow of Upbeat Media Productions. If you are in need of turnkey special event production, Chloe is your go-to. To learn more about him and his work, you want to go to upbeatmediapros.com. All right. I think it's time to get our guest on here today. She's already kind of sitting over there waiting on us, so we're ready to do this. Efrat Cohen is the founder of ProPostureUs, an on-site telephysical therapy-based wellness service at the workstation that improves employees' posture and body mechanics and keeps them most productive. With over 10 years of experience working with patients of various ages and diagnoses in New York's premier hospitals, Efrat says she's always puts her patients' needs first, seeking the best way to help them achieve their goals. She values education and keeps herself abreast of cutting-edge treatments and techniques. So, Efrat, welcome to Behind the Dreamers. I'm excited to have you here today and chat about your journey.
Yes, thank you for having me as your guest today. Looking forward to our discussion.
It's going to be fun. And I can just feel your fun energy over there. So I know this is going to be an awesome episode. So
thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So let's start this off because I know our audience is going to want to know, what is this ProPostureUs? What are we talking about? Obviously we got something to do with posture here. So tell us a little bit about what this company is and how you're helping your clients.
Absolutely. So, hi, audience. My name is Efrat Cohen. I am a physical therapist. I've worked for several hospitals in the New York area, including NYU Langone Hospital for Special Surgery. I've worked with all ages, most diagnoses. It's when I was working with those from the corporate world that I realized they did well in the PT gym, but when they went back to their workstation, their symptoms came back. And I'm not one to have people come through a revolving door for the same problem. So I thought out of the box and I created for them a workstation program, and it worked well. And I'm sure all of you realize through the time of COVID, when you're working in sort of the hybrid office model, working remotely in your home offices, that the last thing we don't think about is our posture and body mechanics. So what happens? We start off our day in poor posture, we fatigue, we then develop discomfort and pain, then we're absent, we're off to our appointments, we're disengaged, and we don't want to do what we're doing. But we're employees, we're part of a company, and our employer really wants to retain us and keep us on staff. So if you are the employer, a great way to engage your employees, especially if they're working remotely or in the office, is with this program, because we want to keep employees, or if you work for yourself, the individual, most productive and profitable at their workstation. And so what's great about this program is that it can be done virtually and it can be done in person. And it teaches you simple strategies and exercises to keep your body most productive. So think of it this way. An athlete, if you think of their performance, they could have great sneakers and a great basketball. It's how they perform that shows their success. Same thing with the dancer. They have a great stage and possible shoes, but it's how they perform. But guess what? Your workstation, you perform at your workstation. So we care about actually how you do what you do. So whether you're at a sitting desk or a standing desk, or whether you're in the warehouse or distribution center, We care about how you do what you do. And of course, the stats that you mentioned, unfortunately, when we don't think about our posture, you go into that vicious cycle. And then you may get the pain and you may get a treatment, but if you don't change the way that you move and be aware of how you use your body, unfortunately, you can go back to that pain. And so we want to prevent that whole cycle, but even if you're in that cycle, we want to break that cycle. And we want you to perform as best as you can for any type of work that you do.
Wow. And I think the thing we've talked about this, I think several times now, because I feel like we've had a few conversations, but I think that the most, I guess, important thing and the thing that I love about you is that you're more about the root cause versus how do we just do an immediate fix? And you kind of just stated that a few minutes ago, but how do we get to the root of why you're having this pain and resolve that so that it doesn't manifest into other ways, really? Because if you think about, I know for me, like you'll talk about the back pain, it could be hurting in your neck and then it's radiating down into the middle of your back, your shoulder, your arm, right? Like it just seems to kind of radiate all over. And so I love that you're more about closing. You don't want that revolving door. Like you want your patients to be healthy, to be well, and to be productive. And I think that, health is wealth. And when you just aren't feeling right, it compromises everything, productivity, your energy, all the pieces. So I really like that about
our bodies tells the story. So when you see people in poor posture, they could be telling all different stories. And unfortunately, when we have stress, which we can't eliminate the stress in our lives, but we definitely could have tools to help us manage our stress. So we look at people, the stress that they're under for their work conditions that they're working, and other things that may be going on with postural health. So you asked a question, the name of the company, ProPostureUs. Yes, I think people's posture is preposterous, especially as we improve our technology, we are more oblivious about how we use our body. And so that's how that word came about, the pro posture, and of course it has us, but the word came off of scuba preposterous. Yes, so preposterous. And so the root cause, yes, I love to look at the root cause, it's posture. Posture just means where your body's in space at any particular time. It's how we use our body that affects what we do and what we are, the symptoms that we are experiencing. So that is, yes, we look at the root cause. Well, what does your posture look like? Well, why does your posture look like that? And I think as a healthcare professional, we look at all the systems. So we want to educate people on their posture health. Like which system in your body is driving your posture? You may have issues with your vision. When's the last time you went to the eye doctor? Are you wearing the correct lenses? Do you have issues with your mouth? Maybe some dental work needs to be done, and maybe that's affecting your posture. Or maybe something else, maybe GI, or maybe it's your balance. And so we look at all those systems and we educate on all those systems so everyone can sort of do a self-screen on themselves and then go to work. Let's see what tools we could use. Let's see how those tools help us. And then simple exercises so that we can then feel refreshed, deal with our stress, manage that stress, and get back to the task at hand.
This is so good. And you said something, just kind of back up a little bit when you were talking about dental, caught my attention. Because 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with trigeminal neuralgia. And at the time that I was diagnosed with it, I also had a major car accident, a T-bone that had happened right in the middle of from the time I found out or started experiencing pain in January to the time I was diagnosed in May. This all happened kind of in a very short period of time. But interestingly enough, I kind of fast forward now to here we are. For a while there, I was going into the dentist. I was being shuffled around a lot. So I went in and had my teeth filed down. We did, because I got diagnosed with TMJ and ended up having steroid injections placed, in my ear. Awful thing to do. But here's what's interesting is fast forward now and talk about posture and all of those things, because every now and then my neck flares up. And it's usually when it does flare up, it's usually because I'm either leaning in a lot. I've been reading a lot forward at my computer. And so I have to be very cognizant about my posture and moving around and not staying in front of that computer. But here's what's so crazy. When that starts to flare up, so does my trigeminal nerve, my teeth. So all of it kind of goes in unison together. And so I always know if one is doing it, I need to pay attention because there's probably a posture issue going on in there. And the other pieces are going to start triggering. And so you caught my attention with that because it is all interconnected, really. I mean, it's all related, to some degree.
And I think what you're describing is a stress posture, which is we get to some position. Some of us favor our right side. Some of us favor our left side. Some have no favor. Just think of yourselves right now, all our viewers out there. Where are your feet right now?
Yeah.
Are they flat on the floor? Probably not. You're probably on your toes. They're probably crossed.
They're actually crossed. I got one foot on the floor. One's on the floor.
You know that commercial, where are your kids right now? Where are your feet right now? So we start off with, where are your feet right now? And our feet are in a position because we're under stress. So we may have them wrapped around on the bottom of the chair, up on our toes. And then where are your arms? Are they digging into the armrest? Are they leaning into the table? Those are ways of just, when we're under stress, we just go into it, sort of like clenching in our whole body. And it's not just in this area over here. And so, oh my goodness, this is what I react. This is how I react to stress. And then you're noticing it, which is great. The first part is that you want to notice what happens to you when you're under stress and while you're working. And then the next step is, okay, I know I do this. What could I do to get out of it? I'm going to stop this sort of, that cycle, that feeling. And so by correcting yourself on what you're describing, oh boy, I better stop whatever's sort of triggering up on that side. Excellent. That's exactly what you do. You want to learn about what positions I should be in relative to positions I normally assume. So that I could then manage that stress and stop that cycle from happening. That, oh my goodness, it's starting in the neck and then it's going up into the teeth, into the head, everything starts. I feel all of it right now. Whew, let me just get out of it. Oh, I just need to reposition myself. Gone.
Yeah.
Excellent. Move on. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a lacrosse ball that I keep around here so that when my back, starts to feel like it's getting knotted up, like I'll, get on the floor and I just kind of roll the lacrosse ball, on the back of it. But yeah, definitely. Mine is always the same side, that if it does, it's like the migraines are going to come on that side, the trigeminal neuralgia is on that side, the back, the neck, all is there. And so, yeah, for me, it's really about, moving around, I was, last week I was in a mastermind for over a weekend and we were sitting a lot because we were involved in that. And then I went into doing a lot. I'm going through a course. And so I was binging a lot of the videos to try to complete the course. And that's really when I noticed that I'm spending a lot of time. So I actually got to a place where I put my computer up on the counter and I stood up. I was standing up and doing it so I could get it kind of level with me. So I wouldn't be, like hunching over looking at it, just a different position, to move around. And so I'm with you on that whole, I think all of our health, I think, is about self-awareness, all the time, that we have to be aware of all the pieces in our body. If we start to feel pain somewhere, we have to be self-aware,
Yes, I think you bring up several good points. So what I do with ProPostureUs is that we assess how you use your workstation. What do you look like at your workstation, whether you're at a sitting desk or a standing desk? And this is in addition to, of course, you have to move around. I think some of us make the assumption that we'll just keep working, we'll just get the assignment done. But it's not good to be in the same position for a long period of time. And chances are you're probably not in a good posture. So you're not in a good posture and you're sitting or standing in that position for a long period of time. Yes, your symptoms, some sort of discomfort. It's very rare people at the end of the workday jump out of their desk and say, yeah, I feel so energized.
Right.
And so you have to find out, well, how was I sitting or how was I standing? How long was I in that position? And you don't want to be in a poor posture for a long period of time because that's when your problems sort of happen. And so you want to be cognizant of getting up and moving around. It could be on top of the hour. You figure out, should I work at a sitting desk or standing desk? Important again. And then what we teach is how to work at either desk, because the compensations happen whether you're sitting or standing. That's just the reality. That's how we are. And so you never want to be in a position for a long period of time, and you want to learn how to use those pieces of equipment properly. And that's the goal, is just the awareness, the education, and knowing what to do wherever you're going to be working, whether you're going to be working in the office, whether you're going to be working at home, in the conference room, on the plane, traveling, creative workspaces. You have the tools and they go with you. That's the great thing, is that you learn about yourself. You take a deeper dive, like, how am I really doing with my wellness? Oh, I don't know. Maybe this part's not really working well. Oh, okay. So now that influences this whole big picture. I get it now. Okay. So I have to take care of this and that's influencing that. Great. And now I can sort of be more aware of that and help myself. And I think that's always what's amazing with people, like, why is this starting to hurt me? And then I look down like, well, look at your foot. What does the foot have to do with it? And so I think we mentioned it before, your whole body's connected, and that you just have to pay attention. What's the influencer? And then if you could sort of gently correct that, it influences everything above that area or below that area.
Yeah, this is good. So we released a podcast recently with a gal that is a board certified health practitioner, and she studies I think her dissertation was in orthomolecular. And so we were kind of talking about how food go totally different subject, but how I was using the car analogy about how I think of food as kind of like gasoline. And so when we're talking about this, everything being related and connected, it's like, I can't imagine, from my perspective, I always feel like there's a time and a place for medicine. Like we definitely need it for certain things. But I also, when I have something that is hurting or not feeling right, my natural inclination is to investigate. It's not to go, hey, how do I immediately solve this with pain medication? I don't even like ibuprofen. Like if I have to take a Tylenol, I'll take a Tylenol, but I don't like it. I don't like medicine. And so I am always kind of going to lean towards how do we figure out the solution to this before, reverting to symptoms. And so we were talking about food and how it's the same thing. Like, if parts are broken in your body, you can't really replace them, right? It's not like a car where the timing belt goes off and you just replace the timing belt, right? And so I think it's really our job to take care of our bodies in all ways that we can, whether that's the food we eat or the posture that we use when we're sitting down looking at the computer, So I feel like it's all connected.
You mentioned digestion many times. It influences your posture as well. Mm-hmm. So there are people who will say, we call those the imploders, will say they eat themselves up inside. And that affects how they use their body. And so they may be under stress. They may be eating the foods that they can't really digest. The acid builds up and they're always in sort of this bent over position because their stomach is really bothering them. Or sometimes it also happens because you're inactive. And so, like I said, all these systems are all interrelated. It's the food you put in, but maybe that food you can't digest. It's not good for you, particularly not for everybody. And that's also an important topic. When it comes to diets, there's no one diet that fits everybody.
Sure.
It's really important to know what works for you and can you digest that and what can you do to have better digestion? Because if you have any issues with digestion, it's going to affect your posture because you're uncomfortable. That area is uncomfortable and it's below. And so you're always in that protective phase of protecting your digestive tract. And the same thing, if you sit for a while, you're going to find yourself running to the bathroom all the time. Doesn't mean you have some sort of condition. Just how you sit, your muscles are like totally relaxed. There is no kind of release the tone over there. And it's just how you sit. And you're like, oh my goodness, something wrong with me? I'm like, no, you sat too long. You're not exercising your muscles. Get up and move around. And you'll see that as you improve your posturing, again, engage those muscles to help you sit or stand better. And you're moving around. You won't be running to the bathroom all the time. So these are important systems to keep in mind. And I think bringing up that fact, with your speaker about the different types of foods to eat, nutrition does influence your body. And so those are all the areas we kind of cover so that you can then veer out and say, hey, I'm not the best eater. I drink a lot of these shakes, but maybe I'm just losing all that nutrient. I'm not absorbing that nutrient.
Right.
I'm really eating really bad food. Maybe I should eat a little healthier. Oh, now I feel better. Guess what? When you feel better, you can sit and stand better, And so that's kind of making those connections for people. It's going to be different for each person.
I agree. Good stuff. That was all good. Thank you. And yes, I agree 100%. So I kind of want to pedal this, I guess, a little different direction because I want to know, we touched a little bit about your background. I want to know how this sort of, you've said some things here and you've given us a lot of really good information, but how did this come about? I mean, did you know you were going to be doing this as an entrepreneur? I would say some people wake up and they're, from the time they're a kid, they're like, I'm just going to have my own business. And some people sort of kind of evolve into this.
Mm-hmm. I would say I evolved into it. I think for me, I always like to be cutting edge. I'm always a problem solver and thinking a big picture, what really could be the problem, not focusing on the one tree, but looking at the forest. And I think when I started encountering a number of people and relatively young, having orthopedic problems and they weren't extremely active and they would be fine in the PT gym and then go back to work. And that's where their problems were. I said to myself, wait a second, maybe there's just some challenges in how they're working. And so if you're going to assume certain postures during the day, well, guess what? When you're done your day and you want to then do something exercise recreationally or play golf or basketball or even go for a walk and you're in a certain posture all day, you know what? You're going to end up having some problems. And so I said, well, let's prevent all of this, and I feel like we have great advances in technology, but I just watch people sometimes, I turn off the PT mode and then turn it back on. I'm like, look what they look like, their head's all the way down. They're all down for many hours like this. Well, how's that going to help them? I don't think it's going to help anybody, And then as you look through the continuum in the spectrum of age as you advance. And I'm looking at the current older adults with whom I work, and they weren't exposed to so much technology. When their symptoms started, I'm looking like, I think it's starting much younger now. And you hear cases are much younger. So for me, it's sort of like that mission, like, let's prevent a huge problem in the future. Let's learn how to use these devices, which are wonderful as we advance with technology. Let's learn to use it so that we are healthy children, healthy adults. And that's kind of just the inspiration. It's sort of just taking a step back and saying, boy, they're creating problems. Let's prevent all these problems. Let's prevent the problem that we possibly could be creating. And healthy, and it helps your whole mindset. There's that mind-body connection. So if you physically look like that, it can help your processes in the brain, whether it's your psycho-emotional or cognitive and your problem solving. It can help. The whole body works together. And there are plenty of studies that we can look at, that relationship between posture and how the mind works and how you feel. And it really is a close influence. And so just me looking and observing and saying, hey, let's see where we can help people. Let's give them a meaningful wellness program that makes sense to them, As we work in different workplaces in the hybrid office, well, we have to have programs that can work in both places, And I find sometimes we have programming and we're like, okay, then we'll make it virtual. It's kind of like drinking flat soda. And here, why don't we have something that actually is meaningful to somebody in the context of where they are, and they could actually use it and feel productive, feel engaged, feel happier. Happy, being have that happiness. Happy employee makes a profitable business.
Yeah, there's so many things here we could expand on. We could be here for a while. There's so many things.
That's the point. It's here to sort of like feed the seeds. Like, wait a second, that's true. Wait, I kind of feel that way, and then use that to help yourself. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's so many. It's funny because I have these conversations, and a lot of the people that we bring, or that I bring on here, I feel like they're all doing different things, but I think their rooted cause are very similar in that they're coming more from a holistic approach. And what I mean by holistic, it's not necessarily holistic medicine. It's more that whatever they're promoting, it's at the root cause. It's like, how do we solve the problem rather than, okay, here's my solution to this quick fix. And so, I kind of always use this analogy when, even in business, the way I coach, because the way I coach is not like, let me give you a widget or a hack. I can give you a to-do list. Okay. But I'm much more interested in why you're doing what you're doing. What's the motivation behind why we're doing what we're doing? So the things you're talking about can actually stick, right? And so I always use this sort of analogy, and you're going to like it because it's about medicine, really. I would say, look, if you're going to the doctors or the hospital because you're having an insulin problem, go get your insulin. But when you get home, change your diet. Like, we can't change your diet while you're in the hospital because that's stupid. We got to do the quick fix, right, to get you out. But we need to get to the root cause and figure out, get the diet changed, but then also, why are you doing what you're doing? What's your issues that are wrapped around the food and the eating and all of the stuff that goes with that? Yes. So I try to find, when I find my people to come on here, it's funny because I feel like you guys are all really an extension of areas that I've studied or areas that I'm really passionate about. And so it's really neat because we can bring, whether it's a person that comes in and talks about digestive issues, or somebody talking about their back, posture, or maybe it's somebody talking about building a business, but they're working at the root cause of how do we solve this massive, problem for somebody. That's what I love about this is where you guys come from. And so that's why I like asking that question, like, what is the background story behind this? So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we're all storytellers, and I think our bodies tell us a story. And when you look at people, you have to figure out their story. And sometimes it's obvious and sometimes it's not obvious. And that's okay. You make that discovery. And I think that's really important, is to take the time and think what really will be helpful. Look for solutions that really have a long lasting effect, something that's meaningful to the person.
Good stuff. All right. So kind of a fun question on the entrepreneur side of things. I would love to know some advice maybe that you could offer to some of our listeners. And it doesn't have to necessarily be on the topic of just starting a business, but maybe it's something that they're trying to start and they're just at that green space, where they're just starting.
Yes. So it's great that you're starting, and maybe you work for somebody and you want to start working on your own, or maybe you're venturing out to something new. I think some valuable lessons is networking. What does that mean? Visit different groups, find people that share your same values in networking. And when you network, it doesn't just mean finding potential clients, but also you help other people's business grow. Just listen, pretend to be them. And then when you help people, it sort of comes from another source for you too. And just listen how people share their experiences in their business growth. There are a lot of pointers out there. A lot of people like to share what works and what doesn't work for them, and try it. I think one of the best advice I received from a mentor is actually trying all parts of our business. So try it. Try your marketing. If you're not good at it, there are wonderful, talented people out there that you just have to find the right person, but give it a try and know the process. Once you know the process, then you sort of have an idea how you want to develop your business. It may not be you doing all those aspects of your business, but at least give it a try and learn about those aspects. That's going to be really important. So then you know exactly who to hire and how to have a meaningful relationship with that person that you're hiring so that they represent your brand or help brand you. And that, I think, give yourself a chance. Keep trial and error. You're going to have a lot of no's, but then learn from the no's and find out, hey, why did you say no? Oh, okay. And then they'll help you refine your business or your product and give yourself a chance. Some things don't happen right away for some people, luck of the draw, but give yourself a chance. Learn your markets. See what's meaningful to them, and then see how you can help them and engage them and give different things a try, whether it's going to different networking events or just trying the cold calls or maybe getting better at it, make it a warmer call, and podcasts. It's great to be interviewed and speak about what you're doing because it becomes more clear to you, and then your audience has an understanding what you do. So I would say give everything a part of business development a try. Absolutely. And there are wonderful coaches like yourself, Jen, that help people. And you may need it. Develop your idea. You may have a little bit, but you sort of feel like limited for whatever reason you don't know. And go through that exploration and figure out. Because all of us has great potential. All of us are creative. You just have to figure out ways to pull it out of you. And we sometimes have a story. Those blocks are weighing upon us. Let's remove those blocks and enjoy the journey because it's an opportunity. And I think sometimes people don't enjoy it. Enjoy the processes, like learning is so important, and don't stop learning. No matter where you are in life, learning is so important, and make everything a learning opportunity. See what you can learn from those experiences.
That's good stuff. You said a lot of good points there. It's funny because you're talking about the learning, and I'm working on this program right now, and I'm in the middle of my second phase, which I'm talking about a lot of psychology stuff. I'm talking about Maslow hierarchy of needs and how, meeting the basic needs and getting to self-actualization and all that. But the part of really about this growth journey that you have to go through, right? So I like that you touched upon the journey, but I think one of the things that really caught my attention is the networking, because I'm a big believer in networking. And, when I worked with teams, it was one of the things that we would get stuck in, is thinking that the only ideas we could get was from the team that we immediately worked with. And I firmly believe that you can get some really solid, I can't say my word today, solid ground information from people outside of your market and your niche. And so networking is a big part of what I do. And I tell people all the time, if you're stuck and you don't know the next direction, you probably need to meet somebody.
Yes. And I also think, depending on in any industry, know what the new graduates look like in that industry.
That's good.
And know what the more experienced graduates look in that industry. And I think that you need to learn from both, because one has all the experience of the industry and how it's growing and developing. But then you have the newer people. You want to know how to talk to them. You want to know what influences their decision making and see how you can make those connections in terms of your buyers, because you want to make sure that you understand the industry and also who your buyer will be. And that's important too. And sometimes we forget that, and it's good to have those conversations. I had one recently, and it's great. You hear their interests, you hear how they want to explore their career, or maybe they want more input. They don't have as much of it. Then go into mentoring. As you have developed your own business, it's also great to be mentored and to mentor at the same time. I feel very valuable.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Good stuff. That is awesome. I had a question for you that I was just thinking about. I know what I wanted to ask you. So in all of this that you've gone through, moving into this new space and, your previous career, what do you feel like you've learned in this journey? Like maybe the single takeaway about yourself?
You got to give people time. I think sometimes you have an idea that really works, but your recipient, so for me, whether they are my actual physical client or they are signing on, and I'm not treating them, but their employee, give people time to understand your idea. You may have to clarify, make sure it's very clear, and you could be 100% clear, and you could have the best teaching tools, or just give people time and then make them more comfortable to the idea, because change is a big deal. And especially in my field, when you're a physical therapist and you're making a physical change, it can be very overwhelming because you're changing the whole balance in the body. And so let the person have time to process it. Sometimes when you give too much information, you may just need to give a little nugget. Let them digest the nugget and then give a little bit more nugget, because if you give too much, the body can't handle so much change. Think of yourself when you have a lot of change. Little bits, you know.
Sure.
So let people understand that process in the journey. And I think that helps a lot. You know, some things don't happen instantaneously. And guess what? You know, for those that are coming out of school, like, what, you can't fix it right away? I'm like, no, some things take a little time.
Yeah.
And even a little fix is a big fix. If you make a little change is also a big change. So I think for ourselves too, it's your own journey, give yourself little bits, but also give other people little bits, you know, and just be patient with that process. And then you may have to learn how to repackage things and talk and reflect, and just you may understand in your own head, other people may not understand. So figure out, well, maybe I need help with explaining what I do. And maybe I just have to be more clear or something, you know, make it more meaningful for people. I think that's the biggest deal, the context. I've learned from my experiences, context is really important. How is it meaningful for someone in the world that they live in?
Absolutely. Good stuff. Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we need to do a few fun questions before we wrap this up. This has been great information. For our listeners, I think there's a lot of good content in here. And so thank you for sharing and opening up. And that last question, I really like that question. So I liked hearing from you on that. So let's do some fun ones real quick. All right. So I'm going to open up with, let's do this. First concert you've ever attended.
Oh, first concert. Well, it actually was a ballet. It was the first sort of live entertainment it was Swan Lake, and I was in first grade, and I thought I would be a ballerina.
That didn't happen, right? You're like, nope, never mind. Isn't that funny?
Then we switched to Broadway.
Yeah. That's how it goes. That's why I said our paths are never linear, right? Like they just kind of go all over. So that's good. All right. Because I know that you're kind of healthy like I am. So I always love to ask this question to us healthy people. What is your one guilty pleasure food?
Ice cream.
Ice cream. It's mine too. I'm like that, but I like chocolate too. But ice cream, yeah.
Ice cream. And then it depends on the texture. Do you like soft serve? Do you like the actual hard gelato? You know, there's so many different varieties out there. So it all depends like what mood you're in.
Right. Do you have a particular flavor, or are you just kind of good on all of them?
I don't have a big sweet tooth. So if it's too sweet, no. But if it's just, you know what, it's your mood, what type of mix of flavor. And I always tell people, if you haven't tried this yet, pretzels and ice cream is really yummy.
Pretzels and ice cream.
I learned that from Little League. If you haven't tried the salty and the sweet together, give it a try. You may really like it. Well,
I could see it because, you know, like they talk about like salted caramel, and I love that, you know, so I could see that kind of, you know, I used to make this dish when I was right smack dab in the middle of doing my ketogenic, when I was trying to reboot my body. We used to make this dish that was basically protein waffles with ice cream and bacon. It was the best. It was like one of my favorite dish. We made like keto ice cream, and then there was bacon bits in the ice cream and on the waffles. And it was so good, but it just seems like such a contradictory to put those two together, right? Like bacon and ice cream. But so I could see the pretzels and ice cream.
I remember mentioning it to one of my coworkers. So we went out to the local store, brought the ice cream and the pretzels, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're right. I never did this before." I'm like, "See?
Good. Yeah. Well, thank you. Anybody listening, now you know, try pretzels and ice cream. Good stuff. All right. Favorite destination spot, somewhere that you've been that you enjoy.
Oh, that one's going to be a hard one to answer because I am adventurous and I do love to travel and I love to do things authentically. I don't know if I have like one favorite, but I can tell you something. I traveled to Alaska, and there's nothing like being on that mushing sled. So if you want an interesting experience up on the glacier, there's something very magical. It's very quiet, and they're disciplined, the dogs, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful way to connect with nature. So I love the outdoors. So there's no like one particular favorite. If it's outdoors, I'm there and we're moving around, even better. Although I've learned over time to just enjoy the stillness as well, but nothing like being outside. So
Cool. I was going to ask you if you were outdoors, but you answered my question. I kind of figured
Yes.
that. So I kind of figured it. So very cool. I like being outdoors too, but I don't know if I like doing all the same things you do. I just like to be out, like to be in the sun sometimes and just be out there. And I used to run a lot. And so I would do that, be outside a lot doing that. So I get it. I get it. All right. Last question I'm going to ask you. What is in your Amazon cart?
Ooh, good one. I think they're closed there right now because I'm the shopper for my sisters, and they sometimes say, "Effie, you always find everything," And I think it was just a request earlier today, so I think what's waiting for me right now is a sweater.
Gotcha. I bought stuff in Amazon. I've bought shoes and stuff in Amazon before too. Sometimes you can find some really good stuff. And I don't know if you're like I am. I just don't really enjoy shopping, so I'm all about online shopping. makes my life less complicated. If I don't like it, I'll just send it back,
Right.
So,
as long as it returns, because sometimes it looks really pretty or not, it looks really good on you or not. And so having that option is very helpful.
I agree. All right. Well, this has been fun. I've enjoyed chatting with you. So if our listeners wanted to learn a little bit more about what you're doing and your company, where do we want to send them?
Sure. So the website is www.ProPostureUs.com. It's one word, ProPostureUs.com. You can look at the website. There's definitely a contact form there. And for all you listeners, you could email me directly at efrat@ProPostureUs.com. And I'm looking forward to engaging and hearing your questions, and hopefully they will help you.
Absolutely. We'll make sure too, when this goes out, that we get the links put in the appropriate places too, just so you know.
Yes.
All right. It's been fun. Thank you so much for sharing with our audience today and telling us a little bit about your journey and what you're doing to get to the root cause of these posture problems and pains and stuff. So good stuff.
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
And we do want to say, of course, to our listeners, if you enjoy our show, please be sure you give us a rating both on iTunes and Facebook, because we can't do this without you. Hit that subscribe button on the YouTube. And we want to leave you guys with one final thought. In order to live the extraordinary, you must start, and every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, and be kind to one another. We will see you next time.